Hello. I don't know why I have to sing at the start of every live. It just happens. Happy Hump Day, Wednesday? It's like 1 o'clock. Oh, there's guest one. They do it. Go let, whoop, did it work?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it worked, but I'm stuck on the screen. Hi.
Hello.
We're waiting on our second guest, but I just confirmed with him. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Been writing all day, so very chill.
You've been what all day?
Writing.
There you go. Perfect. Are you writing scary things? Oh, there he
Yeah.
is.
Started my next planned novella.
Ooh. Hold that thought. I want to hear that. I think I let Charlie in. I think. Yay!
Oh.
It worked. Okay.
Hello.
Can you guys see all three screens?
Yes.
Yes? Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Sorry,
excellent. Okay. We had issues last time. So, hi, everyone. Mallory here. I'm here with A.D. Jones and Charlie Steip, who are... Steip? Steep?
Steep. Yeah.
Oh, my bad. Charlie Steep. It's my brain. That's how I said it. Authors from 12 Months of Horror. And I just want to say that you two are two lovely individuals, and I don't understand how the two of you wrote the most disgusting stories in this book. There's not even like a first place. Like it's tied, and if I had a medal, I would just ship it out because yuck. But before we get into that, why don't you guys tell everyone a little bit about yourselves, who you are, where you are, what's going on. You want to start? Do you want AD? Andrew?
Andy is no Andrew unless I'm in trouble. Andy's fine.
Andy, you go first.
From Liverpool in England, which is hence the accent. I spend most of my time writing, reading. I run a Dungeons and Dragons group every week for like 4 years, which is a good way of testing new characters out on people before they go onto paper. Other than that, I'm very antisocial and I hate people and the Karate Kid.
And you're a body piercer.
Yeah.
Unless you were lying to me. Okay.
No, I am.
You are. Okay. Charlie, what about you?
Yeah, Charlie, I'm from, I live about 2 hours north of Toronto, Ontario, in Canada. I'm married to young kids, 7-month-old and a 3-year-old. My day job, I'm an insurance broker. And then read and write horror in my spare time, which is fleeting these days, but squeeze it in when I can.
Yeah. Friggin' 7-month-old, man. Good for you. That's, I told you earlier, that's the trenches. That is like, I see people with babies now, and I'm like, oh, that's so great for you.
Yeah. Yeah, we lucked out. This guy, he likes his sleep, so yeah, really lucky in that regard.
Yes, you are. Yeah. All right. Babies, man, forget it. I'm done. I'm done with that. Yeah, so the two of you, like seriously, if you haven't read 12 Months, he has, oh, apparently your babies are beautiful. Someone said they're very beautiful.
That's my
nice.
mama.
If you haven't, oh, it is I. I hope I don't say anything to offend her. Oh gosh, now I'm like,
No, I'm her child. Did you read my story? You can't offend her. It's okay.
Fair enough. So 12 Months of Horror there's 12 months in it. So I said this on the live on Monday night, but the way the book is set up, every submission was always going to be dedicated to a month of the year. Um, so it's like some of the stories have to do with a holiday or a certain time of the year, and some don't. Um, but with Charlie's story, I was giggling because I was like, I'm going to put it in February because that has Valentine's Day. Because, listen to my reasoning. Because I was like, well, I'm like, it is kind of sweet. Like, there's like sweet parts where he's like, oh, I'm a proud father. And kind of like loves like what's happening. And I'm like, you know what? Like, there's not really another, well, there's probably a few. Yeah, there's a few. But like, I felt like that was like some good twisted fit for February. So Charlie, can you give us like the gist of your story without giving too much away, and just tell us what inspired this gross, lovely thing that you wrote?
Yeah, so I was living in Hamilton, Ontario at the time, which is like it's a city that's like really cool for paranormal investigators. For one, there's just like a lot of haunted locations there. So I did like a lot of ghost hunts. There's actually a group that led people around. But anyways, I was living in this city. It's kind of like more industrial town. Steel town is what they called it. But and I was walking to the train station every day for work. And it was probably written oddly enough. I don't think it was February, maybe around March. So it's kind of fitting, but it was like a really mild winter we were having, and I lived on the escarpment, so there was like a ton of fog all the time, and I'd just be walking through it to the train station, and to kill time, I'd just kind of wonder, like, what if there was something in the fog? And that structure I kind of describe with like the vines on it and stuff, that I walked by that every day. So yeah, that's kind of what did it. And then I guess my brain is a little warped. I don't know.
You're in good company. I mean, that's
Yeah.
fine. It works out.
Yeah. I like that uncomfortable feeling.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like not funny, but like so when I was so we kind of read through all the submissions and I was going through to make edits. And you have, and I don't know, I wanted to ask if this is something that like a style that is just how you write, but you have kind of a formal, descriptive vernacular. Like when you write it, like the story reads a little more formal, like the sentence structure is a little different. And I was thinking and I was reading and I'm like, I don't think that this story could have been written any other way. Like it couldn't have been written more like colloquially and like kind of with more like slang. Do you know what I mean? Or am I just like looking into it too much because I've read it so many times?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've never honestly thought of it that way. I was reading a lot of like H.P. Lovecraft around that time, so I don't know if the way I was writing was inspired at all by that. I don't know. I'm gonna have to go back and read through some of my other stories and see if that's kind of. I've never really thought about it, to be honest. I had a really solid editor at the time. It was a friend of mine that was kind of just helping out, and she did a lot of like formal stuff. So maybe it was just like her editing that kind of. But I mean, that's kind of how I wrote it. I don't know.
No, I like because I'm like this is really it's like a unique voice and as you read like I was reading so much and that like stuck out to me. Um, it was kind of like a creepy Downton Abbey kind of style at some parts, and I'm like, this is cool because I think like the way, because the story without giving, it's hard to not give so much away, but like it's creepy and it's very like visceral. There's a lot of like gross visceral stuff, and I think if it wasn't written so formally, like it would be a totally different story.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. you look back at it and think about it that way, I'm like, I don't think this could have been told, you know. That's silly. And you are a proud founding member of our silent Google writing meetups,
Yeah.
where we just sit and we don't talk to each other.
No,
We just write.
no, no, no,
Yeah.
no.
So,
That's been awesome. And I've actually started it up. So I work in like a co-working space here. That's why I'm actually in one of our little pods here. But I started it up here too. I kind of put it out to the group, and now Thursdays we meet in the morning. Same thing. It's silent. Everyone just brings their laptop to a boardroom, and we all just write. So thanks for
yeah.
inspiring that. That's cool.
I mean, I can't take full credit because I started doing that with Lainey Taylor. She started offering that on her Patreon, whatever, in the fall. And at first, like, so a silent meet is literally like you have a camera on you and you hit mute and you all just kind of write together. It would be like if we did this and none of us really talked to each other and we just wrote. And I just find that I get so much done in those weird sessions, but they're very weird to start. And I always feel guilty. Like if I need to look at my phone, I'm like kind of like hiding it. Because I'm always
Yeah, you don't
Googling
want to look
weird
like a
shit.
creep.
Like, yeah, well, and then you have to turn on your camera because then otherwise it's like, what are you doing? Like you're watching, but I can't see you. What are you doing? Yeah, I don't know. All right, Miss Andy, Mr. July over here. The other gross one. Not that you're gross. You're both lovely. The story, however, I mean, it really surprised me. I was reading it and I was like, okay, I hate like not giving spoilers, but your story is called Swap Meet. I'm sorry, Charlie. Your story is called The Vessel. I don't think we ever said that. Andy, your story is called Swap Meet. What inspired that?
Um, Multiple things. Thankfully, none of mine are true to life because that would be gross. Um, I wanted to write something with that like Mickey and Mallory Knox, natural born killers, very loved up couple. That was kind of my cast, I suppose. And then idea wise, a few different places, but I really like my favorite home invasion movie is The Strangers, and there's a scene in that where after being terrorized, the people are like, "Why are you doing this?" And the response is just because you were home. And I love that really dark, indiscriminate, just because we can. So I think I just gelled those two things together and added some Lego and went from there.
And Lego, which is the plural of Lego, is
Yeah,
Lego.
yeah. Not that.
For anyone who's listening, I talked to someone about that this morning. I was correcting someone. Um, so am I wrong in it takes place in the US, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, and this is not like, I'm not like, why are you doing that? But like, why would a British writer like set something in the US? Or like, is that not a big deal? And again, I'm just looking too far into
So
things.
it depends on like, I mean, if you read various things I've wrote, a good chunk of it is US based, and sometimes it comes down to two main things, which is going to offend Americans, but guns and
Mm. Mm.
you could road trip across the UK in a day. You know, you could get from the top of Scotland to the bottom of England in a very short period of time. So the travel and being able to murder someone, spoiler, and leave and put some distance between it is
Mm-hmm.
much harder here. So that's the kind of thing. And obviously, like, there's no, well, maybe there is spoilers. If I'm using, like, if I need a gun, it's very hard to write a British story because we don't have them. Um, so it tends to be, yeah, I prefer to write British because I am, and I can detail things a lot better. I think because I spend a lot of time googling things like, is this a thing? What do you call it?
Yeah,
You know,
we all do that.
yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think I adapt quite well as well. So like, cause sometimes like I'll submit a story somewhere that will be quite tight with what they want. So I just go, well, I'm just gonna stick it there because it's what you want. It's easier.
Yeah.
I think it's quite adaptable that way.
Yeah.
But then I like when I get to write something that feels very English. Like my next book is going to be very, very English in dialogue at least.
Okay. And I just started your book, Umbrit. Umbrit? Umbrate. Right. Okay. I just started that. I did, by the way. I moved it up my TBR pile. I'll have you know.
You should. It's great. Very, very good.
It is. It's great, and it is. But that I feel like the dialogue so far, that's definitely not U.S. based. So that's all my feedback so far. That's as far as I've gotten. So it's really helpful and deep.
Well, to me, it does feel American. Like it's not because it's fictional. It's nowhere. But to me, it kind of does feel American. But I think again, it's cops and guns.
Okay.
Because we don't have.
We have the guns. Great. Yeah, I'm outnumbered here, but I can't. I'm not. I'm not going to defend that because it's totally accurate, unfortunately. Two, and I hope this isn't. It might be. I hope this isn't because it's set in the USA. But I liked how in your story you brought up racism in like such a way that like it's. I'm not saying it excuses anything that happens in the story, but like it kind of softens the blow a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's some. I think, and again, across a lot of my writing, I throw things in that I feel like should be mentioned, but then I'm always quite cagey because I'm also often not the subject matter of those things. So I kind of I want it to be put in so that it's pointing out. I guess it's pointing out the author's actual opinions on things without, because I think sometimes you can write something and someone's like, you've put a lot of stuff in that as someone who's the target of that subject might go, that doesn't feel like real life. So I try and kind of keep it quite succinct, I suppose. But yeah, it does help when comeuppance happens and you kind of go, well, unlucky.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
I don't feel as bad about that as I did a few pages ago. Yeah, no, I think that was really well done. And I kind of liked how it touched on it, and like it reminded me, not mirrored, but Evan Purcell's Desert People. I forget what month he's in. He's another summer month.
Yeah.
But that story kind of like touches real quick on like a deeper topic and then kind of pulls back. And I don't know. I just thought like the stories like all really worked well together that way. So you have like a ton of anthology submissions out right now. Like,
9.
Right? Like a crazy amount?
9.
Like
9, yeah.
I have 9 ideas currently. And you have 9 stories out. Like, are any of them the same, or are they all 9 separate stories that are out?
All different. I'm
good for
very
you.
Good. So it's partially so because I finished my last novel and it's with my editor. It was downtime. I was like, I need to fill this space, but I don't want to start my next project. So it was downtime. So I thought, well, I'll just see what's out there. And also, I think I'm very good at working with very little. Like, I think if someone goes, imagine your shoes were sentient, I could then write a full story about that. You know, if you give me a little bit, I can expand. Where sometimes I've not got an idea, I'm sitting there trying to think of something to write about. Where if someone gives me the crumbs, I can grow it. So
yeah. So you just need crumbs.
Yeah.
Crummy.
No,
crummy person. So, and this is a question for both of you. And Andy, you and I talked about this a little bit, but like, do you intend to stay in horror? Like, I know you and I had talked about kind of branching out, but Charlie, like, is that something, will you stay in horror writing? Do you try other styles?
I think I would stay in horror. I wrote like a little bit of like sci-fi stuff before, but my passion is horror. Like I've grown up with it, like horror, the paranormal. I want to mix those. Um, yeah, and there's just something about it's, it's just such a comfortable space for me. Um, I I tried to just I was a little inspired by the smut anthology and I tried to write some spicy stuff, but I just kind of embarrassed myself. I don't know. Maybe I'll try to mix it with the horror, um, but it's an awkward one for me.
I so Andy, I know that you did that too. And like
I did.
I freaking love that I feel like so many of the horror authors did that. And there are authors in here who are also in the smut. I mean, myself and Carly are in both, obviously, but there are others, and no one even knows who's in both. But there's several. But even beyond that, a lot of the horror authors are like, I tried to write a smut, and I'm like, yes, like come to my side. I think it's great. I think trying different things, I think is great. Um, So, Andy, I know that was an interesting experience for you.
It was easier than I thought. Um, I think for me, like, see, because horror is kind of my go-to, but Umbrate, it's not really. Umbrate is kind of an urban fantasy thriller, but I think moving away from horror is easier than moving away from just darker subjects. I think even if I was writing something that wasn't horror, it would still be very dark. That's what I struggle with. So writing smut was hard because I was like, yeah, I need to keep this so far away from that. But the actual writing it was surprisingly easy. Sickeningly
See?
so, actually.
But I mean, there's dark smut, dark romance. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
and
I
you just
love smut. I think.
that, yeah.
What?
Then you out your own interests to the world. That's just me.
No, not necessarily. I feel like with smut, that is the one, like 50-50. Like you're reading something and that the author may or may not be into that. That might just be like a trope. Like then you guys start to get
Yeah.
into like trope hunting and like trying to fit like some notch that the book was missing. That's a whole separate conversation. These are that's the DMs between me and Carly when we're trying to figure things out. Oh my gosh. So I like this question because I my bookshelf. What are like who is your go-to horror author? Like comes out, I'm automatically buying it. Charlie, you go.
It's a hard question, because I feel like there's a
Oh,
few. I'm a big fan of Adam Neville, um, Bracken McLeod, Paul Tremblay, like um, any of those guys. Something comes out, I'm buying it. Um, and I mean, I grew
Why?
up reading Stephen King. Um, I'm not, like so Adam Neville. He writes a lot of folk horror, and I love folk horror. It just like The Ritual. Like the first time I read that book, I was just like, oh my gosh, what is this? Uh,
Yeah.
I'm really into like that old like Norse mythology, and then throwing horror into it. It's just I don't know. It was different. I grew up reading like Stephen King and stuff, and it was just different. And um, kind of the magic and folk element coming into horror. I don't know. I love it.
I like that too. Maybe it's because we like the paranormal, and so that
Yeah,
like speaks to that part of like, because I like that too. I like the mix of like I don't know. I have a hard time with like just straight murder. Like
Same.
I
Yeah.
might be dark, like a true crime. Like Carly loves true crime, and I just like can't do it. I need like an element because otherwise I don't feel safe. Like I start to get like
Yeah.
really freaked out. I'm gonna.
It's too
I'm
real.
oversharing. What a shock! I'm oversharing. What about you, Andy? Who's your go-to?
So yeah, my actual like number one go to is Robert McCammon. Like across the board, everything he's ever written, I've loved. Very, I mean, to say underrated is hard because he's got a lot of books and he sells a lot of books, but he's one like in mention to a horror fan, and they're like, who? But he's incredible, and like my favorite book in the world is one of his books called Swan Song, which I currently own 16 copies of in multiple languages that I can't read because I'm a bit obsessed with it. But all his books are incredible. But outside of that, like yeah, I read a lot of Stephen King as well because I think I was raised on it. James Herbert as well because he's kind of like he was the British Stephen King in a way. And I also like, I mean, I'm a big fan of folk horror stuff as well. Um, I think for me, folklore stuff, it kind of feels like you're going back to a time where people made that stuff up because there was nothing else to do other than get really
Yeah.
dark in your head. Like urban legends and things, it's like going back to a point when we didn't have TV or phones. We were like, I'm going to think up the most twisted thing I can think of and scare my
Yeah.
children with it. And
Yeah.
that stuff, I think that's to me is why it's so good because it's kind of like stood that test of time to move forward as well.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Keep the kids out of the
Interesting.
woods.
All your
Yeah.
brains are so cool. I just love them. All right. So we can start to wrap up here, but so what is next on what's coming up next? What can we expect from each of you? I know you have so many, what do you call it, stokes in the fire, but what's priority right now, writing wise?
For me, I'm hoping to have my next book out hopefully in March, which is going to be
Oh,
called Sacrificial Waters. And interestingly, it's kind of like a folklore version of The Ring. It's kind of how I'm selling it.
cool.
Cool.
So hope that will be out in March, April if I'm slow at doing things.
Cool. I didn't know that was coming out so quickly. I better get reading. Ew. What about you, Charlie? What's going on? I saw your post earlier with like 7 different tabs open. I was like, oh.
I was gonna say that's a really good question. Um, I mean, I've started in on a novel. That's kind of the primary focus is this novel. And then I've got a couple other short stories on the go. Again, trying to just squeeze in the writing when I can. So our silent writing things are very helpful. But yeah, the novel, I hope to have the first draft done. I'm being realistic and giving myself some extra time by like April, May would be ideal to get that first draft done.
Yeah.
If hopefully sooner, but I'm trying to be realistic here. And that one's kind of about um, the Kundalini type energy and the paranormal and you know how that can affect a person and their family. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. It's probably the most structured I've been writing something. Normally, it's just flying by the seat of my pants. I have no idea where it's going, but I've got a bit of a layout, as much of a layout as I want to do without, I don't know, kind of
Building fence.
like I need to have kind of a yeah, exactly, yeah. So, and then a couple short stories on the go. So we'll see.
Cool. Everyone's like like I really like how everyone is so prolific and like everyone's working on something still. Like this wasn't really the stories in here weren't really a one-off for anyone. And I think that's cool and everyone should have an Amazon author page by now. So everyone can follow everyone there. Got your Goodreads sorted. So to wrap up, so where can everyone find you? Obviously, their Instagram handles are right here, but where's your home base and across the internet? Which whoever, Charlie, you go first.
Who's gonna go first? Just the Canadian and the British person. They're not gonna talk over each other. Yeah, so CL Steep, obviously the Instagram. I also run a Facebook group, paranormal group, specifically kind of for the area that I live in right now. It's Georgian Triangle Paranormal. So you can pop on there if you want to read through some. It's just a place for people to share their experience, their stories, and stuff like that. But that's really it. I don't have a huge social media presence.
Okay.
Yeah,
Fair.
same. I've
Really
got
good thing.
my Instagram and I guess my Goodreads. Other than that, I don't use Facebook and things, so it's all pretty much here.
It's all here.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're not missing anything on Facebook.
exactly.
There's no, there's just people arguing over there. Everyone's just arguing all the
Well,
time. I open it up and it's just
it's
people yelling at
like
each other.
going to the fridge. I think it's like there's nothing new, but you keep going back to check.
Right? That's so true. And I'm like, I saw that, and they're like, here's a post from 5 days ago. I'm like, who gives a shit? Like, I don't care what happened. Like, I've already talked to this person since then.
Yeah.
Totally. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming on and just chatting. I just wanted to kind of get everyone to get a face to the names in the book. And again, the book is 12 Months of Horror
Without
on Amazon.
without the lovely.
And oh, look, your copy's real. I have the
I'll buy both.
Charlie matching
Oh,
colors. So. Oh, and your smut. Look at you. You've got it all. All right, guys. So follow these guys if you don't already, and we'll talk to you all soon. All right.
Been fun.
Bye.
thanks so much.
Take it easy.
Bye.